Assalamualaikum. We will continue our lesson in this chapter, which is the hazard identification and the control of a hazard. What is hazard? It is a combination of a condition and unsafe act. Then combination of these two will create a potential cause of accident or harm. Probably you have seen this label before. This is represent the fire hazard where it indicates 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The flash point, the fire hazard relates to the flash point, where if the flash point is below 73 Fahrenheit, so it's considered the highest fire hazard. The reactivity 0 to 1, where it is 0 unstable and 4 it may detonate. So it will fill up the numbers here in this each of the column, where the white label, the white column represent the specific hazard, whether it is oxidizer, acid, alkali, corrosive, or radioactive. The last one is the health hazard, where it is deadly, extreme danger, hazardous, or normal material. So this label is very important so that you can estimate the hazard or estimate the risk for each of the chemicals or procedures. What are the sources of hazard? It comes from the work environment, equipment, plant and process, substances or materials, work system, and also people. Or the more easier way is 5M, the man, which is the people, the machine, which is the equipment, the method, which is the process, the materials, and last one is the environment. So these are the most common source of hazard, which is 5M. So you need to eliminate the hazard in order to eliminate the accident. But before you can eliminate the hazard, you need to identify and recognize the hazard first. So hazard identification, understand the hazard, which is a fundamental requirement for all business. So hazard identification is to identify the hazard that will exist, the consequences that will exist, the consequences, the likelihood, and also the likelihood of the system that will function properly. These are the main four hazard identification objective. And improve the safety reliability to avoid endangering the health and to avoid loss of properties. When we need to carry out the identification? Before introducing a new plant, equipment, process or material, alteration to the plant, equipment, change the way of the plant, change the work system, or if there is any changes during the plant or before you start the plant, you need to identify the hazard. Or if there is a new additional health safety information associated with the plant, you need to identify the hazard as well by using the updated information that you just received. So after an incident or accident, workplace of illness, you need to also to identify your hazard. These are the overall when you need to carry out hazard identification, which is the whole plant life cycle, starting with the conceptual design, basic development, economic evaluation, engineering design, pilot scale, plant design, and until it goes for the renovation or demolition. So these are the whole plant life cycle. So basic approach to hazard identification is to identify the type of hazard. For example, whether it's a chemical, electrical, physical, or mechanical. Identify the individual hazard and also evaluate the possible consequences. Evaluate the likelihood of the consequences arising and to identify the prevention, control, and mitigation. and to assess this control mitigation whether it is a reliable or not. Introduce additional measures if required and have a plan of action deliver this. So the process of hazard identification can also revealing hazard which you may be overlooked, detecting hazard which have developed after the plan have been established, and also highlighting any ergonomic problem. So the process of hazard identification can indicate any environmental factors, determine methods for ongoing monitoring, highlight any training which is required. So the component of hazard identification is by listing all items, for example, where is the location and the usage of each of the equipment, and by identifying on the person in charge for each of the equipment. So analyze the available information about the potential hazard, which associate where you check the accident reports, check breakdown, maintenance record, you check the recommended training information, and check for codes and practice standard. So these are the components of hazard identification. You analyze the environment, you analyze the system of work, and the piece of plant, equipment, chemicals, or other item itself. Record the hazard identification on the checklist or a worksheet and register all of this in a document. These are the hazard control hierarchy. The first hierarchy, if you could do in order to eliminate the hazard, is to eliminate it. Completely remove the hazard from the workplace. If you cannot do this, number one, or to eliminate, you substitute or replace the material or process with a less hazardous one. And the third one is to isolate. Place a barrier or a barricade near the hazardous workplace. Next, the engineering control, install or using additional machinery. And the fifth one is the administrative control, safety briefing, safety training, work procedures, safety awareness or signage. And the last one, which is the last line of defense, is to protect workers if the above measures have failed. These are the layers of protection in the process plan. Layer 1 is the process control, basic process control, where you maintain the variable at some point, for example, the pressure, the temperature. Next, alarms. You alert the operator. Layer 3, the safety interlock system. Automatic action usually stop plant or plant operation to achieve safe condition. And the fourth layer is the relief. Automatically provide exit path for fluids. Containment to moderate the impact of spill. And last one is the emergency response. So we have 6 layers of protection in a process plant. Inherent safety is one of the safety measurement or management that we use in a plant, where it comes from the previous operators or previous workers, where you inherit the method or the process of safety. Major approach to inherent safety design is intensification, substitution, attenuation, limitation of effects, or simplification. Or a new words for this inherent safety is to minimize, to substitute, to moderate, to simplify. To minimize is to change from a large, for example, change from a large bed reactor to a smaller one. To reduce the storage inventory of raw materials. So these are to minimize. Next is the substitute. Use a safer materials. Use a solvent that's less toxic. These are all considered as a substitution. Then is to moderate. Use hazardous material but under less hazardous condition. You reduce the process temperature. These are to moderate the process flow parameter. And last one is to simplify, where you keep piping system neat and visually easy to follow. Next, we go on the major hazard in the process industry, where the main 3 major hazards comes from the toxic release, explosion, and fire. For toxic release, comes from a toxicant. So what is a toxicant? It's a chemical agent, a physical or a dust fiber, and it has a toxicity where it is a property of toxicant that describes the effect on the biological. So the effect is irreversible. For example, carcinogenic, which can cause cancer, mutagenic, can cause chromosome damage, teratogen, or birth defect. So this effect may not be irreversible. For example, affect the skin, blood, liver, kidney, nerves, and lung. We'll continue this fire section in the next chapter, in the next subchapter, with the provided link for the YouTube to see example of a fire, types of fire. With that, we'll see you in the next round. Thank you.